Welcome to the Higher Level Podcast. So we just want to briefly talk to you about ItGel, who's a new sponsor of the podcast, and also ItGel sponsors some of the athletes here at Higher Level. So you can tell us a wee bit about which athletes you have used the product during camp, James.
So we have a bunch of guys use it right through the kind of amateur ranks into pro. The most notable will probably be Luke Shanks, the former CAGEWARRIORS World Flyweight Champion. He's used it for longer than some of the other guys. The other guys actually came on board after Luke started using it, and he uses it for recovery, to help with inflammation after training, and he uses it to enhance the quality of sleep, which he's noticed a big difference since taking the product. So it's all good.
Yeah. And if you pop over to itgelcbd.co.uk, pop in the promo code HIGHER10, you'll get 10% off your first order. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Level Podcast. So tonight, as always, I'm joined by James Doolan, and on the couch next to James we have Paull Mcbain, who's been down training today.
Yep.
How was that then?
It was good, like good rounds. It's hot, very hot. Good lads, nothing easy around the house. So, it's just worth the travel.
Have you been down? Have you been down here training before?
Yeah, I was down with. Last week was the first time I'd came down to the new gym.
Right.
So I've great gym, someplace like.
So enjoy it then, first time in the new gym.
Brilliant, man. He's done well.
Do you enjoy that? See, getting out here, obviously, getting out your usual training environment, and getting out and coming down here and training. It's just new guys, new faces.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I always feel like when you come to a new gym or a different gym, you've got a target on your back. And people want to test themselves. And hey, I've nothing against that. I'm in a sport. If somebody comes into my gym, I'm going to call them up for a round. It's not because you don't like them or you want to test yourself and see where you're at, and I get shouted up from the boys, and I'm more than welcome to give them a round, and these boys are savages,
Right. So
every one of them is tough rounds, so it's only going to benefit me. Sometimes you're a hammer, sometimes you're a nail, but if you don't know what it's like to be the nail, then you don't know what it's like to be the hammer. Do you know what I mean? Both ways.
That's it. We speak about this a lot, James. It's good when guys are coming down and coming in and training, getting the fresh bodies in. And obviously, let's say Paul's first time down at a new gym, so it's good having Paul in as well for your perspective.
Aye, really good. He's obviously one of the better guys in Scotland, and he's at a weight class where we've got a lot of guys who are either similar experience, more experienced, or less experienced, so it helps everybody. And he's got an excellent skill set, so it's good for us just to have different problems to solve when somebody comes in. But we've been doing stuff for a long time. Paul's at the old gym a bit, and I used to go up to Aberdeen, hit seminars with Nathan and Chris and stuff like that. Used to bring me up quite a lot, so we've had that kind of relationship for a long time. They're good guys up in Aberdeen. Like, I've got a lot of time for the gym and stuff up there.
And for you, Paul, obviously it's been a while for your fought. So how's it feeling getting back? You've got a date now. You've got an opponent, and just getting back in there, and you've got something to train towards.
Yeah. This is the thing. It's like people forget. This is not a hobby for me. It's a lifestyle. Regardless if I'm fighting or not, I'm training every day. I'm on that mat. Now I now work in the gym. So now I'm doing PTs in the gym. I'm training other people. It's not like a. It's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. I'm in there every day. Just because I'm not fighting doesn't mean I'm not training. People forget that. I believe in the last, two and a bit years where I've not fought, people think I'm going to be coming in rusty. I could put my £1,000,000 on it. I'm not coming in no rusty. I'm coming in new and improved. I've fixed mistakes where I've made before. I used to work. I was working offshore. I used to go offshore like. Fuck, I used to get home like a week before fights. I remember getting home like 5 days before some of my amateur fights. My professional fights, I was getting home a week and a half before a professional fight. Where these guys I'm fighting, they're doing it. They're getting a good solid 8 weeks. I'm sitting on an oil rig, trying to stay away from the bacon butties at 9 o'clock. It's not easy, but as my point was, I've in the last year, like since I've not been offshore, I've been in that gym every day and I've been improving. As I say, it's not a hobby. I'm in there every day, getting better. And, try to get the guys better as well as me. Good.
Is there an excitement then? See, obviously, you've been training that much and you've got the date now to get in there and just showcase everything you've been, all the hard work you've been putting in. Is there an excitement for that date to come and get that fight?
Yeah, I was just saying this to the guys down the stairs. It's like the fights don't faze me. Like I'm stone cold. You won't get no emotion out of me. Like a fight, you get a fight. I like. It's not even the fight that I get buzzing about. I don't even care about the fight, to be honest. I don't care. I like the build up to the fight. Not even so much exposure. I don't even like that. I don't like being in there. I like the vibes. I like coming in. You know what you're doing. You're getting hard training, hard rounds. The guys are putting it on you. And that's it, you've got to dig deep in through the camps, and that's what it brings the best out of me. And when it brings the best out of me, the fight's just the cherry on top. I say, it's just somewhere, as you say, you can showcase your skills and what you've been learning and getting better at.
And the other thing as well, we obviously talk about it all the time. It's the Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors brand has actually grew through all this. I would argue. So it looks like Cage Warriors have done really well through the lockdown, and now you get your opportunity to get into the trilogy shows. Have you been watching any of the trilogy shows? Or
to be honest, I'm not even going to lie. I don't even watch fights.
I know you've told me that in the past. I was seeing if it had changed.
I was getting nervous when you were speaking about we're going to talk about the UFC card. And I'm like, I don't even watch UFC. I don't watch Cage Warriors. Like, it's not that I don't like watching it. I just try to find the time. I like watching more instructional videos, if you get what I'm saying, like people training. I enjoy that, and when I do watch fights, I kind of look at it in a bit different perspective now. I kind of like watching what the fighters are doing, and rather than being a fan of the fights, I kind of like more studying it, if you get what I'm saying, like looking at it different. So
it's almost like how, let's say, James or a coach would be breaking down film in a fighters. You're kind of watching it for that.
Yeah. Same kind of deal. It's a good way of putting it.
Rex fighting for you as a fan. It used to be something you could watch to switch off. I watch more boxing now to switch off. But now you're watching it thinking, I've not seen that before, or I wonder if he's going to hit this, or is this something that's a new kind of wrinkle in the game and stuff. Once you start kind of analysing the sport and stuff like that, which you need to do as a coach, and to a degree most fighters will do that anyway, but it totally wrecks the sport from a fan's perspective for you.
Do you ever watch it as well? Because you're obviously got to see a lot of stuff like me, a fan who's watching it. Do you ever watch it and get frustrated seeing fighters when they're maybe making mistakes or doing something they shouldn't be doing in a fight?
I think at UFC level you do, because like, you're supposed to be watching the very best guys in the world, and then at certain weight classes and stuff like that, you'll get guys who are technically not that great. They're maybe just athletic and stuff like that, and sometimes that's frustrating, because you know that there's a load of guys who are maybe at smaller weight classes knocking their pan in, trying to be as technically proficient as they possibly can. And they'll never get the showcase that some of these other guys do. But when you see sloppy fights in the UFC, you're like, this is maybe the elite of the elite. It's no good, but I'm the same as Paul. I only watch it when I need to. There's certain guys I'll watch, but it's to figure stuff out. It's to learn stuff, and I never stay up late and watch them like some of these other guys do. I usually wait a couple of days, and I've got a couple of guys that I know I can trust that will say you need to watch this fight or that fight, or if there's a certain fighter that I've been looking at, I'll watch them. But it's no once you start delving into it too much, it's no something you take pleasure out of watching anymore. It just wrecks it for you. It's like a busman's holiday type thing. I mean, it's like, this isn't fucking that good. I watch football. I watch Match of the Day ahead of fighting, just because I can watch it and I don't actually know what the fuck's going on with football that much, so I just watch
You
that.
appreciate the athleticism in different areas and appreciate the technique when you look at different sports, I feel now. You know, looking at a different outlook, you know, and just the likes of like golf, like how they're swinging the club, you know, and just stuff like that.
You can appreciate the skill level and the effort and time that's been put in to get that good at something.
Exactly, that's the way I feel. Definitely.
I think the other thing as well, we're saying about no staying up for fights and you've not got time to watch fights. Kids is obviously a big factor in that.
Oh, aye.
So you're juggling obviously training, everything else, and then you've got the kids and all that as well. Is that just where you just can't? You've got a limited amount of time.
To be honest, I kind of was like, remember when BT started charging you the pay-per-view for the like in McGregor? I phoned up that, I said, cut that, cancel that. I'm like, I'm not paying an extra 15 quid. You know, it's one of them, and I just never put it back on. But as you say, like try to find the time, and I like watching other sports as well. I like watching boxing, and I like watching wrestling, like getting on YouTube and that now.
Especially with boxing, obviously. I don't know if you've seen when you see somebody for a different sport like Canelo Alvarez and just how good he is, you've got to appreciate that as well.
Yeah, the technique in it's just ridiculous. You know, he's just a freak. And
then we've got the other side of boxing at a minute is we've got Tyrone Woodley transferring for MMA, and he's going to be fighting. What brother is it?
I don't know.
Oh Christ! It's no Logan. It's the other Jake Paul. And so we've got Tyrone Woodley for MMA, and then we've got Floyd Mayweather. Will any of you go back and watch the fights? I'm obviously no stay up for them.
Nope, you go first. There's more chance of my 11-year-old kid watching it than me.
I am the same. My 14-year-old's like, he's been sending me clips of them training and stuff like that.
I get that.
So wait a minute, right? So is he familiar then with the Paull brothers?
He's into all the kind of YouTubers. Like he knows a lot of them, the same as everybody else at that age. But he knows who they are well before they started invading the boxing world.
Well, I look at it in two different ways now. I look at it in like, people say they're ruining the sport, but I feel if a kid can watch him, that YouTube guy, boxing, and if that kid can kind of like, if that YouTuber's gonna kind of push this little kid to boxing, how's that a bad thing? You know, but yeah, in a way, if he's killing the professional side of it, but if you like in the bigger picture, if he's pulling in little kids to get into some combat sports, it's a weird catch-22 because it's like it's exposure. Some of it obviously negative, some of it it's just a hard one. Very little positive.
There isn't, but like you say, I saw Ben Askren post today. Obviously, he was he posted something in reply to one of the Paull brothers saying he had a great day. Obviously, made a lot of money, and then Tyrone Woodley as well. He's quite make a lot of cash with it. So I guess you can't fault him for getting in there and making money.
Yeah.
And it's hard to make money in that, obviously, this sport. I don't know if James, did you hear the thing in Joe Rogan? It's with Corey Anderson, what he said about his 2 fights in Bellator.
No, I seen something. He said he'd made more money at Bellator than he had in the UFC or something.
In all his fights in the UFC, he made more money in Bellator than he had.
Yeah.
But it's not the UFC, isn't it?
It's just the business, isn't it?
It's crazy,
but the business.
As a fighter, I guess you can potentially go elsewhere and make more money, but for like you, I'm assuming the aim for most fighters, and definitely I would assume yourself, is the UFC. That's
yeah, definitely. Especially now, I look at it for me is if I can do this, I love doing this. If I can do this, I want to see the world. If I can travel the world, go to different places, like James has been all over the world with fighters. He's fought himself over the world. How's that? That's quality, man. That's what you want. If you could go like Canada or America, and you know you're getting that paid for you to go over with your fighter or to fight. That's quality. And how's that actually life, man?
It's life experience as well, because you as well, James, coming through and fighting everywhere. It's the experiences you've had. Looking back in them, I mean, I'm sure you've had a few moments that weren't as fun looking back, but the memories are irreplaceable, right?
I've said this before. I was never ever on a point. I was like 21. It was to go to a fight, and then the time I'd hit 30, I'd been to Japan, I'd been to Thailand, I'd been to America 4 or 5 times. multiple places in Europe and stuff like that, and as much as we were going away there for fights and stuff like that, everywhere I was going, I was dropping into gyms and training or finding coaches to work under and stuff like that. So it was just you're getting to travel the world doing what you enjoy doing. And I would never went to any of the places, to be honest, if it wasn't for fighting. Like if I was picking somewhere for holiday, I wouldn't be going on 14 or 15 hour flights for holidays. But it just gives you that opportunity, and it's the good thing with martial arts. Like you can go anywhere in the world, and there's a bit of respect there with whether you're fighting the guy or not. But you can stroll into any gym you want, and once you're on the mat, everybody's equal, and you can just learn and take wee bits from everywhere. It's been really cool. And then obviously with the opportunities you're getting with some of these bigger promotions, taking fighters to and stuff like that, it's been an experience.
Because I mind what I said to you the other week that I watched that documentary, and you spoke about the UFC. I think the words you used in the documentary was it might have been a bit too late for you at that point, just with your age, but the next step for you was getting fighters to the UFC, which obviously you ultimately done.
Yeah, I think when just before that documentary was shot, me and Paull Mcbain were ranked number 1 and 2 at bantamweight in Europe, and then by the time the UFC actually opened up the bantamweight division and stuff like that, we were both getting closer to 35. So the timing was just off for us. If we'd been maybe 5 years younger, everything would have been a wee bit different. But we already kind of knew at that point that our competition careers were starting to kind of slow down a wee bit. The guys we were bringing through as students were starting to catch up and then ultimately take over what we had done, which was always the kind of goal as a coach, was you want your students to surpass you. So even that documentary was 2012, so it's still another three and a half years before Joanne gets signed to the UFC, then Stevie the year after, and then Danny again the year after that. So we kind of knew it was coming, but they never had our weight class at the time when we were at the top end of the division.
It's mental when you look back at the sport, just going back to 2012, where it was you're talking about the weight classes weren't in place of that, and now where we're at in 2020, 21, how much the sport's changed, how much it's blew up. I still think it's got a long way to go in terms of global exposure. But
back then they were still Dana White saying that women would never fight in the UFC.
I remember that.
And stuff like that, because we obviously went to Invicta with Joanne first, and then UFC bought Invicta and stuff like that, so it merged straight over. But it grew massively between that kind of 2010 and 2016. It just blew up.
It's actually that it doesn't feel that long ago, 2012, 2013. But it's
creeping up.
I think the last year or so has made it feel like
doesn't count, does it?
No, that's like we're talking about golf here. That's like if you take it, is it a mulligan or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, you're allowed to shoot again. I better put this next to me. Cage Warriors belt hitting me there. But so obviously, Paul, opponents there, James Hendin. Is that something you pay much attention to at all, the opponent, or do you just get the date and start working?
The first time I seen him was when Cage Warriors posted the picture.
I actually messaged him and they couldn't tell us who was fighting.
Did I say it was Stephen? Still not do was fighting a Stephen. And he came up James, and I was a new guy. But yeah, I said this before. It's when I first fought in Cage Warriors, right? My first fight was against that Lloyd Manning, if you remember. And I remember, I went on to videos, and I was watching him stiffen people, and it kind of put that in the back of my mind. And ever since that, I was like, why am I watching this? Mm-hmm. As soon as I got in that ring, all I could remember was him doing that to people. And then what am I doing? I'm trying to fight his fight. I know what's coming, and I'm trying to, you need to be aware of it, but I'm waiting for it. Yeah, so by the time I'm waiting for it, he's working his fight. I've accepted to fight his fight. So I think I look at a different perspective now. If I get my coaches to look at it, and then I get my coaches to tell me, You know, I get guys coming in saying, yeah, he does this, does that, it's perfect, that's what I want to hear. And then we can work that a little bit, but I'm not changing my game for no man. I don't care if you're the best black belt in the world at jiu-jitsu. I'm not training my jiu-jitsu more than my striking, or my wrestling more than my jiu-jitsu. I train everything as equal as I can. So it's kind of like, I don't know what they're going to come with, but I'm going to be prepared for everything as best as I can in every single area.
So for you, it's about being that rounded fighter, and comfortable everywhere where the fight goes. And see, from your coach's point of view, James, is obviously we hear Paul speaking there. Do you like it when a fighter's like that? It just lets you do your job, and you fill in the gaps for the fighter and tweak where things may need to be tweaked?
It depends on the fighter, to be honest, but most of them I prefer that they don't obsess about the guy. I like them to have a wee look to see, is he southpaw, is he orthodox, what height is he, it's a couple of wee things, not great detail, but we do the same where the coaches will have a look at it, and then what we also do with that is we'll mention a couple of things at the start of the camp, and that's it. We don't dwell on it, so it's not like you're hammering on about it. You need to watch him, don't let this guy get your back or whatever. I bring stuff in subliminally. I'll go with the guy who's fighting him, he'll not know what I'm doing, but I'll go to the sparring partners in name, and I'll say, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, and change things, even if it's in between rounds or whatever. Or I'll bring guys in who can mimic, but I'm never really making the fighter too much aware of it, because you get hung up on it. And before you know it, it's like that. We've spoken about this before. I've used golf as a reference. If you're fucking hitting down the fairway and you're thinking, I can't go to the right, there's a bunker to the right, before you know it, you've hit in the bunker. It's the same in a fight. And I experienced that in a couple of fights. I was like, I can't let this guy do this to me, and before you know it, he's done it, because you're so caught up in it. Whereas if you just go in there with your mind free, prepared for everything, and let stuff happen, you'll be fine.
It's kind of like, can you remember this? I think it was Chael Sonnen that said that it was an experiment that was done where they took a long plank of wood and sat it on the floor and asked people to just walk over it, and they walked over the long plank of wood, no problem. Then they put 8-foot ladders up and put the plank of wood on the ladders, and then said to people, walk over it now. So the process is the exact same, but it's your mindset changes.
Perspective. It's a good way of looking at it, isn't it?
It's mad. And I guess that's the other thing as well. Fighters, you can prepare so much for one thing or a certain scenario to happen, and then that scenario doesn't happen. A fighter may change his approach and how he's going to fight you. So you've got to be ready for change, I suppose.
A common thing with it is they'll concede a range. So like if you're fighting somebody you know who's an exceptionally good striker, you're like, I need to wrestle with this guy, he's too good a striker. And if the guy's an exceptionally good striker, he's prepared for dealing with wrestlers for day one. Like his whole game is built on defending against wrestlers, because they know he's at an advantage with the striking thing. So a thing we harp on about in here is, you, like Paul said, you have to be well rounded, but you can never concede a range to somebody. You can't just be like, he's a better striker, I need to wrestle straight away, or I can't go to the ground with this guy, or I can't be at kicking range, because once you start conceding parts of the game to people, you're at a massive disadvantage. Whereas you can learn how to cope with them in every range and cause them problems. And you see this when guys cross over for other sports, and they've maybe been exceptionally good strikers or wrestlers, and they get outstruck and stuff like that, because they're not expecting it, or they're so worried about takedowns and stuff like that. We had a kid in at the weekend who's in the GB development team for boxing. He's an exceptionally good boxer, and about 20 minutes into sparring with something, the guy just started trying to wrestle everybody. I never went around and said, do not box with this guy, he's a big puncher, he's got like a really high knockout ratio as an amateur. I just let him go,
just to see.
Before they know it, that some of them were landing on him with strikes and stuff like that, and that's what happens. So you can't be too focused on the other guy, because it's pointless and it's detrimental to your own shit.
Aye, that's it. And in terms of the process for you now, I know you're obviously training here, you're going training elsewhere the more as
I'm going down to Chris Duncan's gym.
MXP.
No, but I don't think it's called that now.
Oh no, it's changed. It's changed.
Crown and Glory.
Crown and Glory. Going down there. So just try to travel a bit, and as James says at the start, it's fresh guys, different, looking at a different outlook in the game, and bringing different things, So if I can come down here and get the guys, and see where I need to work, perfect. I feel that's me accomplished my trip alone. If I can pick up one tiny little detail that I feel that I've went wrong, then it's worth the 2-hour drive any day of the week.
It's good as well. I quite like hearing that. See, obviously we're quite a wee country, and every gym works well like that together. But it's good that there's gyms and there's the networks there where guys can travel and go to another gym, and it's welcoming for them.
No, it's cool. I like, as I say, James is really sound about us coming down, and any time that I say, James, can I come down? He's head down. Anytime, so it's very welcoming as well down here. You'll come in, there's no egos, there's nobody coming up or nobody growling at you from the side, trying to target you. Everybody gives you a fist bump. Everybody's like, come on, let's get a good round. Try to test themselves and try to get the best out of the round, which is great.
Because that's because you're coming down to develop yourself, but you're obviously helping a lot of the guys in here, obviously amateurs and stuff like that in here as well. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And now getting back into, so you're the fighting on the Saturday on the 26th.
Well, I just heard Stevie McIntosh just tell me, is it changed to daytime?
Aye, they've changed it so because the UFC starts early.
Right. So. Right, okay, so how's that? How's that going to work?
I think it starts at 1 and it has to be finished for 7, I know that, because the UFC prelims will be on Fight Pass around about 7, so I don't think they wanted to go their main event or main card on the Saturday, they wanted to go head to head with the UFC prelims. So he's brought it forward to daytime.
So, I mean, I'll ask you both this, and does that change anything for you as about how you prepare yourself in terms of for your fight time, or do you train as normal? And James, guess the same for you with the guys?
A bit different. I hope the weigh-in times are earlier.
They'll have to change the weigh-ins to really early on the Friday, I think, because they've got, it's obviously usually a minimum of 24 hours, but it's usually much more than that if you're on the main card. So I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe let you weigh in at 7 or 8 in the morning, similar to what the UFC do.
It's going to be weird though. Like, that's going to be the weirdest point. Fighting daytime, it doesn't matter. When they tell you it's go time, it's go time. You flick that switch and you go, regardless of what time of day it is. But I think the weigh-in, like normally the weigh-ins are like 3 o'clock-ish, or normally 3 o'clock. So you get up in the morning, you check your weight. All right, I've got this amount. It's going to take this amount of time, but I'm going to have to sit down with my coach now once we find out the weigh-in times and how we're going to structure the cut. Because I don't want to be cutting 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's something that we're going to definitely have to sit down and look at it once we find out the times, etc.
It's weird how that's one thing. So like, probably fans and people that are watching the event, that's one thing they don't think about when the fight times change. Just how that change then affects how you need to weigh in and how you're going to sleep and rest and all that. There's so much goes into
definitely.
that. Definitely. And is it something again you're going to have to look at with obviously Stevie?
Stevie's not a massive weight cutter, so him being on the Saturday for us is a good thing. We've obviously got Keir on Thursday, Luke on Friday, so we're juggling weight cuts on the days of fights and stuff like that. So the guys I take down with are going to have to do a bit of work, but thankfully 2 out of the 3 on the really big weight cutters. But I think what Stevie will probably do is cut a wee bit the night before, go to bed, get up and do the last wee bit, go down and make the weight, and just try and get as best a sleep as he can on the night before. You never get great sleep anyway, but Stevie usually can diet down to about 3 kilos over, so he'll have like 6 pounds of water to cut. He'll not be that much. He'll do 3, go to bed, wake up and do 3. It'll be relatively easy for him.
Is that the part getting back in there and getting fighting? Is that the part you don't look forward to, the weight cut?
It's part of it. In my brain it's already, I don't mind it, to be honest. I think that, you hear people saying, that's the hardest part. The fighting's easy, and I could say that any day of the week. Once you make weight, it's such a relief. And it's like, oh, brilliant! Like now you can eat.
Now you can have fun effectively.
And that's it. So fuel up and just do what you do.
And it's something, James, you've said, and you've said umpteen times in the past. You didn't treat it as though you're getting paid to fight, you're getting paid to make weight.
It was the worst bit, but by a mile. But it's a necessary evil type of thing. It has to be done, or if everybody wasn't doing it, then it wouldn't have to be done. But you have to just assume everybody's doing it.
It's not a part of the sport that's going to go away anytime soon.
It's not. I get people every day. The usual. Why do you not just fight a higher weight? Oh, yeah. Aye. And I'm fighting this boy. It's coming down. It's say I'm fighting. I don't fight featherweight. I fight lightweight. I'm fighting this boy. It's coming down for 85. Now I'm walking about 76. He's going to be a big lump.
I think sometimes some people just assume that you're probably the biggest featherweight about, not realising that. There's featherweights are actually pretty big. Yeah, definitely. And then when you go up to the lightweights and so on and so forth, it's just when you see the sizes. I mean, the first time I seen Ross Houston, I was like, Jesus fuck! I was like,
he's a big boy.
Aye, it's the size of some of the laddies. It's just one of the things. Everybody does it, and like James says, it's not going to be a part that goes away. I don't think anytime soon. And for your laddies, how much do they know what you do in terms of the fighting side of things? And
what's that, sorry?
How much do your boys, how much do they know what you do in terms of the fighting side? Aye.
I've got my oldest kid, he's into football, so.
Aye.
My middle one, he's into fighting, so I've got him into Thai boxing. I put him to a completely different gym from us.
Aye.
I don't put him. I could take him into our gym, but I don't put him.
Aye.
I put him a closer Muay Thai gym. The reason being, I don't want him messing about. I want him going in there, discipline. I'm not going to be there looking over him. The coaches don't know me. And they just treat him like another kid. I don't want nobody looking, not like they would anyway.
Aye.
But if he's going there, he doesn't know nobody. It's a different environment. When he comes to my gym on like a Sunday when I take him in, he just runs about. It's a playful place. It's my work now.
Aye.
So the older one, the footballer, it's a retirement plan, because as you know, there's no money in the fighting, like, so.
No.
Hopefully, he can get in the football and look after me when I'm old and crippled.
No, the money in foot is definitely football's a much better route to go down if you're going to make it your profession.
Definitely.
The money in football's insane.
Sure. That's a retirement plan. The mid-lane can just follow footsteps.
Aye. He can support the middle one as well.
Yeah, exactly. Support Abdi.
Also, we've got coming up after Cage Warriors, we've got another big UFC card headed by Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori. Obviously, we've got Scottish interest in that card in the prelims and the mains. Now, I'll need to pull the card up and we'll go through a few of the fights. What fight in the card, James, is standing out for you? We'll no quiz you on this one.
There's two actually. Dober and Brad Riddell?
Brad Riddell, aye.
Both very good strikers. Riddell's the guy for City Kickboxing. Dober's obviously a really good Thai boxer. I think that there's no way that can be a boring fight. Both of them are really aggressive strikers. And then the other one is probably my favourite featherweight actually. It is the Russian guy Evolov, who's fighting Hakeem Dawodu, who Danny beat. Evolov's coming off winner Grundy and stuff like that. He's exceptionally good everywhere. I think he's one of the combat sambo guys, but he boxed at a good level, kind of Soviet boxing style. So it's just brilliant to watch him. So I'm looking forward to those two. I don't know if it's just because it's feather and lightweight, so it's the divisions I like watching. But stylistically, they're both excellent fights.
So I think with feather and lightweights as well, there's just the skill level so high and the finishes are there all the time as well, which is why the divisions stand out.
Yep.
And they're quite obviously. We've got a lot of British fighters on the card as well. And we've got Joanne Calderwood. She's fighting Lauren Murphy. What do you think? What do you think of that fight for Joanne?
She should smoke Lauren Murphy. To be honest, she'll keep it nice and long and dissect her on the feet. It's not a competition at all on the feet. I think Lauren Murphy's quite a strong grappler. She's probably going to have to take a lot of shots on the way in. I can see Joanne decisioning her. I wouldn't be surprised if she stops her with a knee or an elbow or something like that. But she's quite tough, Lauren Murphy, but not exceptional anywhere. She's one of the girls in the division as well that's not like an elite level athlete. Like some of the other girls are a lot more athletic. She's just tough, man. Just tough, relatively gritty grappler. And I think Joanne should have her way with her. Just keep it nice and long and keep her face off, pretty much.
Yeah, do you think it's one that's obviously, if she's got aspirations of fighting for that belt, this is a must?
I think they're ranked. Are they ranked 2 and 3? I think.
Yeah, aye. So it's to me, I thought looking at it looked to me like a title eliminator.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think because the way that division is with Valentina Shevchenko, she's beat every person other than Joanne, I think, and Lauren Murphy. Probably the winner gets a crack at the champion, I think.
A big date for Scotland as well is obviously going in there against Shevchenko is an absolute. It's just.
She had that fight before, mind, and she took a fight.
Aye,
Shevchenko,
and then
she
lost
took the Jennifer Maia fight and lost her spot. I don't know if she underestimated Jennifer Maia or whatever, but she got beaten that quite easy. But there's spots in that fight with Shevchenko Joanne can cause problems. Taekwondo especially, I think she's still levels above most of them in that spot there. She's just not been using it a lot.
Aye.
She's almost kind of fell in love with her boxing a wee bit and wrestling a wee bit more. But Shevchenko's quite a good clincher as well. But there's definitely areas where she can cause her problems. It's obviously a massive ask. She's probably the most dominant kind of champion in the sport now.
Aye.
But I can see her going through Lauren Murphy and then getting the Shevchenko fight, and you never know if the stars align for one night and she turns up and Shevchenko's on a bit of a bad night, then everything could fall into place. You know what the sport's like.
No, it's not just that. We've had British champions, English champions. We've had obviously English title contenders as well. Dan Hardy, Michael Bisping won the belt. It'd be great to see a Scottish woman go in there and fight for a UFC title, innit?
Yeah,
it'd be great, and you would hope that, obviously I know Joanne's it's based in Scotland, but you'd hope she'd get decent media coverage here, although after the Josh Taylor thing you wouldn't be sure, but it'd just be great to see her going in there and challenging for the title.
I think it would open a lot more doors to bring them back to Scotland as well. Yeah, start looking at other guys as well. So it's all good for.
I mean, I think the UFC are definitely. I mean, they've had good experiences in Scotland. They've set that place out. It's been great atmospheres, great fights as well. Especially that first card, some really, really good fights and finishes. And I think that's the main thing when the UFC comes to a smaller country like ours. It gives loads of guys opportunities, especially guys currently fighting in Cage Warriors, because obviously Cage Warriors right now seems to be the best route to UFC in Europe. And that's, I guess, when they announce a UFC event as a coach, you're hoping, right, I'm hoping this phone's going to start ringing, and fighters would be thinking the same.
Normally when they announce one, I email Sean and just tell him, like, if you get any pull-ups at these weights, these guys are sitting ready.
Do you mind knowing that?
You get your email.
Get mine here.
That's kind of how Danny got in and stuff like that. So the guys they've got like a scouting network. They're aware of everything. They're the best in the business for a reason. But they definitely need local talent. Like, you can see it anytime they go to an area, they'll sign. They want local guys in just for local interest, ticket sales and whatever else. So I think if they're coming back to Scotland regular, they're going to sign more Scottish guys.
Aye, 100%. What a way to make your debut for the. Obviously, Danny got to experience that, making your debut for the UFC in the Hydro in Glasgow, packed out the place. Yep. Places, and that the atmosphere in there was. I was at them, it was absolutely electric, man.
Yeah, it's quality.
Yep. That must be. So hopefully when all this madness clears there, though, because they were supposed to come back here, weren't they?
They had the date kind of. They mentioned it. They do that thing with they'll be like, it'll either be Glasgow or Dublin type of thing. But there's rumour now they're in London August. I think it's the 14th. I think Darren Till's going to headline that. The last I heard that's speculation, obviously, at this point. But I think if the lockdown restrictions and stuff ease off pretty soon, I think that could be a reality, because they'll be wanting to get out of America and out of Fight Island and stuff like that and back to Europe. Mind they were about to kind of try and push the Chinese market as well before COVID. They built that PI centre over there. They signed all those Chinese athletes, and then obviously that's never happened. So
I seen something about them doing something with one. Did you see that?
I think it was just a rumour type.
It was like, I think it was their guy. I mean, I'd love to see a wee bit of cross promotion with him. I'd love to see.
That'd be cool.
I would love it.
They'll never do that. The UFC. They were supposed to do it with Pride, remember? And then they shafted Pride a wee bit.
Aye, because Liddell went
into that tournament and then they never took anybody back.
Aye. But
they don't need anybody. They're like so far ahead of everybody.
It's like one of the. I mean, if you look at some of the promotions, there's maybe a few guys in there you'd like to see competing, but you ultimately think some of the guys will end up in the UFC anyway.
Yeah.
But obviously on the main card we've got again Scottish interest. We've got Big Paul Craig. He's fighting Jamal Hill. A fight that's been scheduled. I think, I'm not sure if it's once or twice before, but Paul's obviously doing really well at the moment. He's broke into the top 15 in the light heavyweight division, and right now obviously John Jones coming out that division. I mean, there's got to be a lot of light heavyweights looking at that division now and thinking, right, this is a real opportunity.
It's wide open, I think.
I think so.
You can't see the current champion holding that belt for it, like dominating the way Jones did.
No.
I think he's got that fight coming up with Jiri as well. So
Aye.
I think it'll be, if Jones stays away, I think the belt's probably going to get passed a bit. Like similar to some of the other divisions where you'll not get guys maybe even defending it 3 times.
He looks jacked now as well. You've seen him, man.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Jones.
Oh, aye, he's massive. Aye, he is definitely massive. I don't know, as you said, I've been testing him on there.
I don't know.
That's just speculation, by the way.
He's under that cage at Jackson's, actually does.
Aye, but it's another opportunity for Paul again to potentially crack a top 10.
I don't know too much about that Jamal Hill guy. I think he's a big puncher. So if Paul can get past that, he'll sub him. Like you know how Paul Craig fights go. He's either going to get stiffened or he's going to get the submission. And he looks a wee bit. He looks better defensively. He looks a wee bit more comfortable on his feet and stuff. The last couple fights, so I think he probably submits that guy. I don't think there's many of the light heavyweights are getting that style of jiu-jitsu done to them a lot. Like they're probably, there's no guys in their gym voluntarily going to their back and attacking them for guard and sweeping them and stuff like that. It's usually, if you watch the guys, it's like they'll put themselves in half guard and non-hat them, so they look to hit. But he can sub anybody in the division, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if he armbars or triangles that guy for the bottom.
And I guess that's it. Getting his defence right and on the feet.
As long as he
gets him into his jiu-jitsu.
As long as he doesn't get hit on the way in, I think he'll do fine. I don't know too much about that other guy's defensive wrestling and stuff, but that type of opponent seems to be the type that Paul's been getting a lot of, big strikers. And his record's kind of 50-50 with him. He'll either sub them or he'll get caught. And I think he'll submit that guy, because I don't think that guy's faced like somebody with that submission threat that Paul's got so far. And there's not a lot of them about light heavyweight like that either. Aye,
and you've got to assume that Paul's looking at the light heavyweight division now and thinking this is as good an opportunity as you're going to get to really make a run in there.
If he picks his fights right, like he beats Jamal Hill and then say he takes out somebody in the top 5 or whatever, you're potentially 2 fights away for a title fight there as well. You never know, man. Look what happened with Bisping. He just took that Rockhold fight in short notice, and he's a guy you'd never have earmarked him for being a middleweight champion.
Aye.
And you take your shot when you get it.
It's just mad that sometimes it's just opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself. You just got to
keep working.
Be ready to work and be ready to take it.
Yep.
And we've got a few more fights in the main card. We've got the crafty old veteran Mr. Damian Maia. He's going in there against Bilal Muhammad. Obviously Bilal's coming off that situation with Liam Edwards with the eye poke, so they've gave him another big name again. Is a day gone for Damian Maia, do you think?
It's been a while since the last fought, I think. I think if he loses to Muhammad, then probably, because he's been hanging with higher level dudes and that. And at some point it can't be Damian Maia anymore. Do you know what I mean? He's got to turn up, and stuff's not going to work for him.
How old is he now?
I think he's in his 40s.
Aye, he is. He's 40 odd.
I'll not pick against him. I like him because he's one of the. He's a freak in that division where he's like a complete specialist. He's not a great striker. His wrestling's underrated and stuff, but he's what we're talking about earlier on. Nobody wants to grapple with him, but before you know it, you're grappling with him. So I reckon he'll probably win, but he's also much bigger than Muhammad. I think like he's a big welterweight. Him But again, at some point that age is going to be a factor, and he's going to get clocked, and everything will change.
In fact, he's definitely, obviously, he's been at a much higher level than Bilal Muhammad in terms of, especially with strikers and scary
Don't
strikers.
realise how many fights he's had in the UFC. He's up there with the guys like maybe 25 plus fights, and he's in all the records, like most submissions and most wins, and he's one of the guys that goes under the radar a wee bit. And
you forget he's like you forget he was actually a middleweight, like submitting Chael Sonnen, obviously fighting Anderson Silva for the title.
He's big at welter, like.
He's a man. I've never seen him up close and personal. He
rolled with Stevie when he was in Scotland. Then we were in Singapore. We done some bits and pieces with him, and he's on the ground. He's absolutely frightening. He's maybe the best jiu-jitsu guy in MMA. Certain guard passing, back taking. But he's massive at welterweight, and he seems to be quite comfortable making that weight.
Aye.
But he ran over Askren that night, like in Singapore.
Aye. What was the feedback like for Stevie when he was grappling with him?
Stevie thought he tapped him. He's like, I tapped him, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he let you tap him. He says he couldn't have been any nicer. Like I think a Scottish guy that's a black belt under him, Mark, messaged Stevie just saying, could you open the gym and let Damien in to train? And when Damien Maya wants to use your gym, he gets to use your gym.
Definitely.
That's one for the group chat, innit? Damien Maya's coming, everybody's diving down.
I don't pure fan, don't I?
They've just trained, and Damien's let Stevie do stuff, and probably tapped when he's let Stevie do stuff, but he gave him some information, this, that, and when we met him, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks later, we'd met him in Singapore, and he came right up to us, and he was really cool, man, really cool. But he's exceptional. He's a guy I watched before he'd done MMA. I used to watch him do jiu-jitsu. Brilliant. And
then we've got on the card, we've got Leon Edwards. Obviously, we just spoke about Bilal Muhammad there. Leon Edwards, and he's now facing Nate Diaz. I don't think that's a fun fight for Nate Diaz. I think that's, to be totally honest, I think Leon Edwards is going to run over the top of Diaz.
Yeah, he's going to smoke him.
Especially welterweight, man.
Yeah. I think they've matched that well, just so Leon gets the name value. Diaz.
He's not had it throughout the years.
No.
And it'll help him get the recognition he deserves. But I think he's had much harder fights than Diaz. And he's beat much better guys. Diaz is the only strength for that first McGregor fight. He's built a reputation that he doesn't really deserve. I don't think. He's lost a lot of fights. Him and his brother were exciting fighters back in the day and stuff like that, but they're no regular, and they've no changed at all. So Leon Edwards is going to kick his legs to bits, and then have his way with him wherever he wants to. Like Diaz has got no wrestling. He's not going to get subbed off of Diaz. Like Leon handled Gunnar Nelson on the ground pretty easy, and he's just much bigger and physical and just better. He's massively underrated. And this will be his coming out party, I think.
It's almost like watching a modern mixed martial artist in Leon, who, like you were saying how you're training to be rounded everywhere. Leon is well rounded everywhere. Where Nate Diaz is good in a couple of instances, but for example, he's boxing, just the power's not there. He's not got the power at 155 really, and I don't think it carries up to 170. And like you say, he's not going to submit him. Doesn't have the wrestling to get him down anyway.
It's pretty much, when you fight somebody like that, it's like an IQ test. He's good boxing, he's got a good guard. He's not like a super athlete. And Leon Edwards is his main attribute that I see is his fight IQ. He's smart. He's such a smart fighter. He does everything that you want a modern day guy to do. Like we talked about earlier, he doesn't concede range. He's happy to go to the ground with Gunnar Nelson. He's happy to wrestle with Usman and stuff like that, and he's just really, really good everywhere, and he knows when and where to go to places, and he fills in a lot of gaps. He's got some sneaky wee tricks everywhere in the clinch and with elbows and wee bits and pieces that he does that some other guys are not seeing. And like, if you're going to give him an IQ test with Diaz, he's going to sail through it. He's going to. The big thing for me will be whether he stops him. No, I think it's in 5 rounds. I think for some reason they made it a 5-round fight.
So that would make the 3 taps, because obviously that's the third. That would be 5 rounds in. Figueiredo, Moreno, 5 rounds.
Title fight. I'm sure it's 5 rounds, but even if it's not, he's going to win convincingly. It's just whether he gets the stoppage, and I think he will stop him.
And what about yourself, Paul?
Yeah.
Do you see any way Diaz would beat Dion at 170?
He's durable unless he catches him like a free sub from his back. I agree with James. He's just gonna. His fight IQ is just so much better, and he's much more modern fighter. He's only got a couple of, he's great. He's good off his back. He's great boxing, but I think Leon Edwards is going to pick him apart.
Aye, definitely. And then we'll get the rematch coming in. Moreno Figueroa. Obviously, we've been waiting for this one to get rebooked. First fight was fantastic. It was a great fight. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. Would you agree?
It was short notice, wasn't it? Moreno filled in, I think, for Sunday. So it'll be a different fight because both of them have had full camps for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be fight of the night again. The two of them they've just got their styles that they're going to just meet head on and go. I think Figueroa won more convincingly than the last time. Just using more time to prep and stuff like that. But it should be a good fight. Well, it lasts, I think. But it's a good fight, man. Like, both are hyper aggressive, very good everywhere, scrambly, which is what you want for the guys at that weight, and that's one of the fights I'm looking forward to.
Is that one you're looking at, knowing you've got Luke Shanks here, former Cage Warriors flyweight champion? You're looking to get back to that. Are you looking at these guys at the top end of the UFC and seeing how they compare to Luke? For a couple of reasons. You watch the whole division anyway, just in case. When he gets to the UFC, obviously, like Hadley, who just beat Luke's in the UFC now, so Luke goes into this kind of 4-man tournament at Cage Warriors, wins it, he's potentially going to be in the UFC. But you watch it just for perspective of future opponents, but you also want to watch that division because it is the pinnacle of the sport, to see what these guys are doing, because what happens normally in the UFC, elite level filters all the way down to Cage Warriors is elite level guys like you've seen before. The guys coming through Cage Warriors UFC do well, so that usually what's happening at the elite end of the division kind of shapes the division, like it's like a meta game, so everybody's in the weight classes is usually very similar, although the top end of the weight class is what everybody needs to solve. It's the problems that are getting created there. How are guys winning? How are you going to solve their problems to beat that meta game? So you need to watch it with the weight class in mind. And that's kind of what you do when you're watching for a coach's perspective. Like we said earlier, it's hard to watch these fights as just a fan. It's a fucking pain in the arse. I should always look at something. Just the last one before we wrap up the show. We've obviously got the main event of the night. Again, another rematch, granted under different circumstances. We've got Israel Adesanya, who's coming back down to middleweight after losing obviously his light heavyweight title challenge, and he's going in against Marvin Vettori. That was Israel Adesanya's first fight in the UFC, right?
I think it was first or second. It was quite close as well. It was a split decision. He's obviously improved massively since then, but so is Vettori. I think that'll be a good fight as well. Vettori's tough man. Adesanya's going to win, I think. Again, he's too smart and too well versed. I think Vettori's probably going to try and wrestle and grind with him a wee bit more after seeing what Blachowicz done to him. But the factor in that was just the size difference, more than anything else. Like that jump from middleweight to light heavyweights is massive. And Jan Blachowicz is not a small light heavyweight. But I think Adesanya he seems more confident now as a champion. He's obviously got a lot more experience, and he's been in big fight after big fight. So unless he makes a mistake, I think he wins.
You would imagine as well, though, that Adesanya and his coaches at City Kickboxing will know that that's probably Vettori's route, and then they'll look back at some of the guys Adesanya's beat, i.e. Romero, Boccacina. The coaches at City Kickboxing, Eugene Barman, one of the best kind of game planning minds in the game. He's always there or thereabouts with his game plan. Smart team in general, the guys, but I think they know what they're going to get off of Vettori. It's again hyper aggressive. He's either going to be. It's kind of similar to a lot of the guys for that King's MMA gym, actually. Really good striking, but aggressive with holes, and confidence-based strikers. If you take their confidence away, then you kind of bypass their whole system. But if you let them grow in confidence, they're absolute problems. And then he's obviously added Vettori's for a European, he's actually quite a good wrestler. But
Adesanya's takedown defence is excellent. The reason he couldn't stop Blackford's taking him down was just the size. Like, he was doing everything right. When you watch it, he's putting his frames in the right places, his balance and everything. But it was just mass is just there's weight classes for a reason.
Absolutely.
So I think Adesanya gets the job done there.
And on that, I think we can all agree June's going to be a really good month to be an MMA fan. We'll obviously know for yous the way yous are watching it. I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy it. Maybe yous won't, but it's going to be a good month. And obviously, Paul, thanks for, I know you had a hard day's training and travelling. Thanks for jumping on the show, mate.
No worries,
appreciate it.